From Vox Markets, I'm Francesca Morgan, and joining me today, once again, I have George Frangeskides. He's the Executive Chairman of Alba Mineral Resources, and Mark Austin, Chief Operating Officer. Thanks both for joining me today.
Thanks, Fran.
No problem. Now, we've had a lot of questions from the investor community. So why don't we start with Clogau? Just touching on this, can you shed some light on the nature of the extra data that may be required for the dewatering license application and where this is at currently?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think what we announced, Fran, was that we've been asked to do provide some more survey data. So that's what we're doing. And that really, although we've had 3 years worth of that related survey data, actually, we've been asked to do some more surveying. So we're doing that, particularly the summer surveying, June, July. So that's imminent. So that's the main focus, I think, of the additional data is the on the back side of things. And other than that, we are, I think, also mentioned that we are updating the submission. So we have already submitted a very large report to inform the habitat regulations assessment that the NRW team are engaged in, and we have had some back and forth on that, and we are updating those submissions as well. So couple of things really, the updating the submissions for the HRA and some further surveying data that we're working on.
That's great. And do you have any idea as to when a final decision will be made regarding the dewatering?
No, unfortunately not. I mean, it's out of our hands to an extent. It's not really we're not in a sort of statutory timeline or anything like that where we can give a clear indication. All I can say is, I know that some shareholders certainly are frustrated by the time it's taken, as are we. But it is the nature of mining, especially in Western jurisdictions, that we are subject to significant regulatory oversight, and that's just the nature of the beast. Probably shouldn't be any other way, really. We'd like it to be quicker, of course. We think that the scheme we've put together is robust and safeguards the environment, but we are beholden to the authorities and we have to answer their questions, and if they want more survey data, then we essentially have to produce that. So timeline is very difficult to say. We're working on it. We've got excellent consultants helping us to get through this process, and we are still very, very confident that we will ultimately get the permits that we need to get on with the dewatering. But timeline wise, we'll just have to keep you updated on that.
Now, seeing as Scott Gold Resources held an auction for its first gold, where I believe the average price was a premium of nearly 400% over the current spot price, would Alba consider this kind as an option and create media attention, or would it go a different route?
No, we'd be happy to go that route. I mean, I think that that's an excellent idea. And what it shows, what it points up, is what we've been saying all along, is that there's a massive premium attached to, well, certainly in Welsh gold terms, there's a massive premium always been attached to Welsh gold, Clogau gold. If Scott Gold are getting a significant premium of that sort, then that's extremely promising for us. So we would certainly look at that as an option, an auction for the initial gold, and thereafter, it's really still in the realms of the possibilities are coins, gold bars, and high-end bespoke jewellery in conjunction with a jewellery brand that is has got an international recognition. So those are the routes that we would ultimately look to go down.
Now, guys, can we just touch on the recent waste pit sampling exercise? What did these assays show, and what can we expect?
Well, it's very positive. Mark, would you want to just take that one?
Yeah, thanks, George. Yes, as you well know, Fran, that we did an initial sampling program on the waste tip with bulk samples. We then further processed those bulk samples down to concentrate level, and we received values up to 1,000 grams per ton on the concentrates themselves, which is very exciting for us because it far exceeds what we were expecting.
And do you have any contingencies in the case that the dewatering gets denied?
We don't think it's going to get denied. We are very confident that we will ultimately get the permits that we need to get on with the dewatering exercise. So, as a good politician will tell you, I'm not going to answer a hypothetical because we are still very very confident that, as I said before, the scheme we've come up with is robust. We take very seriously the protection of the environment. We think the two things can coexist at Clogau, as they have in the past. It's the producing site, let's not forget, for many, many years, including into the 90s. So, we're not talking about periods when there was no regulation of the environment. So we are still supremely confident that we will get the permit. It's a question of time. So, but, to answer a hypothetical and not be a complete politician about it, there are lots of other things that we're working on. The waste tip is one. We've got tens of regional targets that are really interesting, and we can touch on one or two of those. Perhaps we're doing drone surveying over some of the areas within the gold belt. There's a huge amount that we can do there. The technical work that we can now throw at this Dolgellau gold belt that's never been done before is really impressive, and it will generate refined targets for drilling in sites where it's just not been, there's not been drilling before, there's not been production before. So the scope is massive. There is plenty of work to be done, and dewatering is just one of those, but we are confident we will get to dewater.
And just touching on Dolgellau a little more closely, what's the plan for Harford Owen, and what can we say on this?
Mark, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, Harford Owen is a very interesting one because it's not a site where there's previously large-scale mining been taking place, so we don't inherit any of those problems. We've had geologists out there, and they've done several field trips looking at chipping samples of the outcrops, and we've got values up to 24 grams per ton. But it's not just a one-off; it's several in the tens, several just below 10. So there's a lot of interesting values to be had out of that. So we're going to continue that field work, and then that coupled with the Aeromag drone survey that George mentioned, we should be able to look at some drill targets in the near future.
That's great. Now, guys, we're going to talk about GreenRoc mining now. So we know that from their website, they've recently applied for a new license, which connects to the Clogau and also the North Amitsoq license. Can we talk about an update here?
Yeah, sure. We would hope to get it very soon. It's just been taking quite a while in the system, I think, for approval at the Greenland government side. So that's imminent, I would say. But imminent, let's hope it's a matter of a week or two max. I mean, it is good ground. We want to have that additional ground. We believe that the Clogau the Clogau deposit extends into the southern portion that we've applied for. So it's been approved for grant, but obviously until it's granted, we can't really.
And what does the path to production?
About it too much.
Sorry, I cut you off there.
It's okay.
In terms of Amitsoq, what does the path to production look like here?
So, key thing first of all is get through this drilling program. It's a significant drilling program that we're doing this summer, starting very soon, looking to drill and improve not only the tons, increase the tons that we've got at Amitsoq. We've already got 8 million tons at not just shy of 20% graphite for what would translate into 1.6 million tons of contained graphite. So that's very good. And that's in the indicated category. Also very good for a maiden drilling program. But this year we intend to up the tons significantly and up the classification of the resource significance, so get more into the indicated category, and then also bring in some new inferred resource. So there's a big exploration target there. So our focus, as I say, for summer is get through the second phase drilling. And I think we'll be very well set then to move into scoping study work. We're already commissioned the EIA and SIA work at both projects. So that's also going to be ongoing with a view to getting the EIA and SIA work. So sorry, to use acronyms, environmental impact assessment and social impact assessment work. Those are very important pieces, of course, of any mining license application, and it's no different in Greenland to anywhere else. So we are confident that those projects will be moving into the development phase. Otherwise, we would not be commissioning EIA and SIA consultants to start on that work. So the process, though, is to get through that process where we finish drilling, got a good resource, enough to support a feasibility study, and then moving into finishing. Well, it's a long process in SIA, and it involves public consultations, and again, that's all very normal. But with a view to having those done and approved by the end of next year, around that time, to then apply for a mining license for both of those projects. That's an aggressive timetable, but that's what we're working towards. End of next year, around that time, to apply for mining licenses. Mark, did you want to say a little bit more there? I think Fran's question about production, and how we see that. We're already doing some work on that, aren't we? Initial work.
We are. We've actually started. Well, just to go back to the resources, George. At the moment, our split on resources is about 24%, 26% on the higher confidence categories, which is measured and indicated, and the other 76% is inferred. This drilling campaign is designed to really up that in terms of the measured and indicated. So we're quite excited about that. We've already started a scoping study looking at the mining technology and where we're going to process. I think just let's bear in mind that Amitsoq is on about a 60 degree latitude, which is parallel, which is on the same latitude as northern Scotland. So the weather is not that bad in terms of putting a plant on the surface, not like projects further north in the Arctic Circle, where the winter presents a huge challenge. So I think, by and large, I think we've got some ideas in our minds already. The scoping study will definitely crystallize those ideas, and then the upgraded resource for Amitsoq will then give us a chance to start looking at levels of production, monthly, annual, and then next year we intend to drill at Clogau, which is going to up the resources even more. And Clogau is likely to be the spot where we put the plant, but that's not a done deal. There's instances in Norway and Sweden where the plants are underground. We will certainly be open to looking at those sort of scenarios as well.
And it's worth saying as well that, as Mark says, that work's already underway. We've appointed consultants, mining, engineering and processing consultants, to help us design both on the processing side and on the production side what that is going to look like. That's going to be refined over the coming months, but we are already putting that in writing because it's part of the process whereby we agree the scope reference, in terms of reference, with the Environment Agency and the government departments generally in Greenland for the EIA work that we're doing. So that work is already underway. Essentially, the scoping, the initial preliminary scoping, is already underway for Amitsoq and TBS.
And what about potential off-takers?
Well, we are obviously open to that. I think that the best time for that is going to be for TBS is going to be when we have the updated resource. So let's not forget that it's taken quite a while, but we drilled last year, second phase drilling at TBS, and we are waiting on the process of getting sampling done for resources in relation to our mineral sands is quite an involved process. It's not just a simple assaying process. There's further steps of processing that need to be done to get to a final data that you can then use for an upgraded resource. So we are hopeful that's coming to conclusion very shortly, and that IHC, who are our competent persons, will then be able quite swiftly from there to move into confirming the updated assessment of our resource at TBS. So I think that is the time at which when we've got hopefully a significantly improved and increased resource, that's the time at which we will start to really ramp up our discussions with potential off-takers and to give them samples that they can analyse for themselves, and then get into more involved discussions on potential MOUs for offtake. So that's TBS. Amitsoq is the same, essentially. We don't want to talk to people in earnest yet until we've upped that resource to a level that we are confident is sufficient to support feasibility. So once we get through this summer program, assuming it goes as we expect it to go, then that will be the time that we start those discussions in earnest with potential off-takers. But we're paving the ground for all of that already. I mean, I've been at PDAC, the biggest mining conference in the world, this week in Toronto, and have presented to what's called a Greenland Day event, where all the Greenland mining companies and people who are interested in Greenland and the regulators and the government are all together talking about Greenland and the future of mining in Greenland. And I presented GreenRoc to that conference and went down very well, I have to say. And people are very excited and very interested, and have had lots of approaches post conference, post presentation, asking about our projects from some quite serious industry players. So, that is great. It's not something that is concrete, but it shows that there's massive interest, particularly, I'd say, on the Amitsoq side because of the battery metals aspect of it. So, that's really a key driver for GreenRoc, and the value that's in GreenRoc is going to be Amitsoq and the battery metals side of things.
That's great.
So,
And
so that's really where we're at with offtake.
And how does GreenRoc plan to fund the development of these assets?
In the usual way, I suppose. I mean, what we would like to do, we've already got a strategic investor in GreenRoc who came in at the IPO, is very supportive of us and what we're doing, and put in just over £2 million into the IPO raise that we did. And they are, a private group, and they are very supportive of our efforts. We had a strategic actually from the Middle East, but there is definitely potential for putting on another strategic investor at the parent company level, whether that's a sort of fund or a sovereign wealth fund or that sort of category of investor. I think that would add a huge amount to the story and the confidence in what we're doing. So that's something that we're working on at GreenRoc. And, the potential once we get into feasibility is debt finance, so that not all about equity, and it's not all about, dilution. So it's we're looking at, obviously, as ever, as a hybrid of debt and equity once you get into that development stage. So that's work in progress.
That's great. Now, just segueing onto Alba's acquisition strategy, have you made any progress here, and what does this look like?
Yeah, well, look, we've said, I think, that we're always open to acquisitions to add to our portfolio in the right way, right? So where we perceive there to be value in a project that's going to add potential production potential to the company, then certainly we'll look at that. We look at projects constantly. We've got an open mind on jurisdiction, on commodity. Obviously, we're currently very heavily in gold, so we would definitely, have a leaning towards that. But we are agnostic in the sense that we're looking for value for shareholders. So wherever that may be, commodity-wise, jurisdiction-wise, that's where we'll go. So we're very actively looking. Nothing to report at this stage, obviously, because it'll be on RNS. It's got to be the right mix for Alba. And frankly, if we didn't have another project, let's not forget here, we're not a one-trick pony. Is that an expression? One-trick pony? Anyway, one-trick wonder, maybe.
One-hit wonder.
One-hit wonder, because we've got a portfolio here of several assets. The beauty of the spin-out of GreenRoc for Alba is that we're not obliged to fund GreenRoc, right? We are a majority shareholder. We've essentially ring-fenced our investment there, where we don't have to worry about the funding that's going to be needed at GreenRoc in the years to come. We have an investment. We expect that investment can increase in value. We think it should be way higher in value now, market cap-wise, than it is. But that will come with the updated resources and the work that's going on, and the new team led by a really, really impressive and experienced person, Stefan Bernstein. That is all going to add value to GreenRoc and therefore to Alba's investment in GreenRoc. So, we've got plenty in our portfolio. Let's not forget that. And when people rightly, ask questions about dewatering at Clogau, I can totally understand that. We're working on it, but it's not our only focus, and it's not our only tool in our toolkit, right? We've got a lot of very, very valuable, potentially very valuable assets in Alba, and some of those, as I say, we don't have to fund. So that's a really good position to be in. But we are looking at other options that add even greater value.
And do you think there's scope for Alba to increase its shareholding in GreenRoc in the future?
I mean, I'd say never say never, Fran. I mean, it's it's a possibility, but as I say, it's not an obligation at present. So we've got an open mind, and we'll do what's in the best interest of Alba shareholders in that regard.
Mm. And what are the company's plans in terms of supporting its share price performance? What does this look like at the moment?
I mean, we put out quite a lot of news when it comes to RNS news flow. I mean, we're pretty active in that regard. We could do a bit more. When we get busy, we do, sometimes a little bit of the sort of promotion and investor relation could be improved, and I apologise for that if we sometimes fail on that, and it's only because we're busy. But we're looking to improve our efforts in that regard. So hopefully you'll see a concerted and improved effort, or shareholders will, on the communications front, really. But in terms of news flow, I mean, we've got great news flow coming up. Obviously, we can't, as I said, say what the timeline for moving forward at Clogau is going to be. We've got though a timeline for the regional work, which we can control a little bit better. So there'll be news flow coming out of that. There's going to be massive news flow coming out of GreenRoc, and that is, that's Alba's, one of Alba's key interests, as I say. So all that news flow on GreenRoc, all the RNSs about drilling and updates on resources, hopefully that all comes into Alba's bottom line. Frankly, it's part of our asset value. So that's all going to be flowing. So I think there's going to be a lot of news to come, and that should hopefully help to drive our share performance.
And I mean, I guess you kind of already answered my question, but is there anything else you'd like to add in terms of what investors can expect in the near term?
I think we have covered it. I think we come into a summer season, which is very important in Greenland. So we've always known that. We're well set there. Mark's done a huge amount of work to get us to a position where we're going to be drilling at Amitsoq. Never an easy task to design a field program in Greenland. Mark's going to be going over there in a week or 10 days. I can't remember. Mark,
tomorrow, Friday.
Tomorrow,
yeah.
Even sooner. Sorry, losing track of time. So we've got teams already on site at Amitsoq building, drill pads and the rest of it, and the riggers there. And as I say, the summer season is our focus right now at GreenRoc, because it's so important to the Alba Group, and so that's going to be our focus. And at TBS, we are doing some very important work up there as well, starting in July with a couple of teams, one looking at baseline work and another looking at archaeological studies. Those are two very key components of our EIA work at TBS. So whilst we won't be doing drilling there this summer, we'll be doing some other very important development work that will feed into our process for getting a mining license at TBS. Hopefully that all comes together with a nice updated resource, as I say, in the next month or two. So I think that this period, June to September, is critical for our Greenland investment, and that's the focus. At the same time, we do not lose sight of all the work we're doing at Clogau to push forward and give that additional enhanced data that has been asked for, and see where we get to.
That's great. Thank you so much, George and Mark, for joining us today, and we'll be looking out for your positive news.
Thanks, Fran. Appreciate the time.
Cheers. Bye-bye.